Hello, my name's Jack and I'm the founder of AIM, and I'm currently in my garage as many of us are sitting at home working out how to make sense of the world and how to communicate with each other, and then how to design the world that we want to see into the future. And one of the things that has pushed us time and time again with our work at AIM has been this quest for trying to work out what a fairer world looks like. And we're currently going through a process of opening our own university called IMAGI-NATION University to try and bring people together from around the world, to bring school students who have been seen as a problem to be fixed, and to really flip the script and say, hey kids, we'll give you a stage and we'll give you the solution, the chance to be able to go out and show that you're a solution. To university students who might have come out of marginalized backgrounds and made their way into a university campus, to say, hey, why don't you grab 100 of your friends, reach your hand back, and then mentor 100 odd high school kids just like you, so we can see more and more young people have the chance to have educational equality. For teachers who are sitting there who don't know how to capture those kids who are outside the margins, who don't know how to access imaginative frameworks and tools that we can help them unlock that potential, so every classroom talks to every student. For executives to level the playing field and look at what diversity looks like around the boardroom and in our leadership. And finally, for citizens to be able to go out and create change. So that's what we're working on today. We're stoked to be able to travel around to some different time zones, hang out with some friends across the continent of Africa and India, and then some different locations around the world. So stay tuned, some really cool people dropping in to talk about IMAGI-NATION University and what it means to pursue higher order thinking. We're going to throw to a quick video and I'll be back on the other side.
We know what happened in 2020. So let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine
what a free and just world looks like. Let's imagine
a university free for all,
with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere.
Let's imagine
A social network for good.
A bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works.
Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class,
We see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students,
Teachers, executives, citizens.
coming together to work on a curriculum designed for a future that we hope to build. Now, imagine.
It's happening right here. And you're invited.
Welcome to IMAGI-NATION University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory.
Applications are open now.
Agnila Rajesh, welcome to IMAGI-NATION TV, to our special on IMAGI-NATION University. I'd love to hear from you, AR, about what's piqued your interest as you've landed in our stratosphere, and maybe we might have just lost you off the stream. So I'll jump over to Lena. Lena, have we got you there? And would love to get a sense as to what sort of piqued your interest as you're looking at IMAGI-NATION University. And we may not have Lena. So Nick, you've been doing some interesting stuff with your life. What made you want to get out there and try and make something happen? Tell us a little bit about your story, and what sort of brought you into this stratosphere, and what you're thinking about trying to do at IMAGI-NATION Uni.
Yeah, thanks, Jack, and real privilege to hang out in a very special country today, so I want to acknowledge that. I guess Orange Sky started with this really crazy dream and imagination to put 2 washing machines and 2 dryers simply in the back of a van and drive around and wash and dry clothes for people out there who didn't have access to those things that we take for granted, whether that be a load of washing or a shower or someone to talk to. So 6 years ago, we put those 2 washing machines and 2 dryers in a van and stumbled on something that had much more to do than washing and drying clothes. It sort of had everything to do with, while the washing was on, sitting down and having a chat. So our mission at Orange Sky is to positively connect communities, and how we do that is through a really simple thing, which is while the washing's on, sitting down and connecting. So I myself have never been to university, and someone throughout school who was at the back of the class and probably dreaming and doodling and trying to draw pictures as cool as you and the team do, Jack. So I guess the idea of coming together and learning has happened on this country for over 60,000 years. So to be a part of a new way of conversing and connecting is a real privilege, and I'm excited to learn.
Yeah, it's fun to, I don't know your experience, but I just you feel so crazy when you're trying to do something new. Like everyone just like genuinely looks at you like you've broken their brain. And I think Cabs, that was a little bit of our experience at university. I went to university with Kabir Danji, and we were studying together doing media and communications, and it felt like everyone in the course had been taught how to follow the rules, and we were a couple of people that didn't quite think that way. And Cabs, what have you reflected on over the course of being a key part of the AIM journey as we've had our own go at trying to create change, and what's exciting you about this frame and this concept? And would you have thought that when we were 17, or I think a lot older than me, maybe you were 28, or maybe you're like 55 now or something, but when I was 17 at least, did you think that we were going to start a uni 16 years later? There you go, Cabs, there's about 16 questions for you.
Thanks, Jack, and thanks everybody for being here and being part of this. I think that it's just it's huge for me. I think that all the things that Jack and I had talked about at one point in time are now starting to come together in ways that, I said this to Jack quite recently, in ways that I could have actually never imagined. And I think one of the most fundamental things that we do and we allow and we give people an opportunity to help with is to create a fairer world. And I think that nothing could be more important than that, like to give everybody else the opportunities that we've been able to have, things that we're able to do, and just balance some equality.
I think Agnul or Rajesh, I think we might have you back there. AR, how are you?
I'm good, dear. Thank you so much, and congratulations on this initiative today.
Thank you. I'm really interested to hear what you think imagination is, and where you see it sitting in an experience as we try and unlock our journey as human beings.
So, well, I feel that there is a great opportunity to bring equality of education through concepts like the IMAGI-NATION University, and which will create equal opportunities for people who can be armed with the right education. Speaking from Mumbai in India, the biggest challenge that Indians face is it's a large country in terms of size, in terms of population, and people lack education purely because the access to education in terms of availability of the right tools and resources, and at the same time, the financial backup to get that kind of education. So IMAGI-NATION University, I'm sure, can bridge the gap and do a lot of good to these people in developing and underdeveloped countries, and can bring this skilled manpower to the use of the whole humanity, to the use of the whole world. So IMAGI-NATION University, I can see it as being a game changer in the coming years and in the coming days. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be associated in some form or the other to take it forward.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see what we can kind of do with it. And I think, Lena, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And part of what, as we sort of traveled around the world in the last 16 years, trying to really think about how do you lift a generation out of inequality? How do you genuinely close that gap, whether it's in Australia or around the world? And, I was lucky enough to sit a couple of hours outside of Kampala in Uganda in schools there, and, hang out where the Mandelas grew up in South Africa, and spend a lot of time in different places across the United States, and travel with Native American people, connect with Indigenous people in Canada. Like, I've been lucky to get a bit of a viewpoint. And the one piece which I've always been astounded with is what we often find ourselves doing is getting into some train tracks and following orders. And in doing that, sometimes we lose our ability to have a free mind. And I think as an educator, your job is to try as much as possible to emancipate the mind, to think freely, and then to give tools to navigate the world around you. Lena, tell us a little bit about your experience so far with the work you're doing, and what role you see the freeing a mind, playing in an educational experience.
Thank you so much, Jack. I mean, I'm really excited for us to do some great stuff together in India. We have a connection because I'm Australian, I'm an Australian national, but I sort of came to India because I wanted to bring the joy of learning to India. And also that, education in India has been politicized for so long. And so creates so much of divide rather than a feeling of unity that I think, what we can do through the power of imagination is virtually limitless. A lot of people have been talking about the coming age, that this age is one of imagination. And I think, that what you're doing right now is just being done at a perfect time. I actually feel this time of the pandemic is just like a reminder to us all that, it's just a symptom of the wounds that we've created as humanity towards each other, towards the planet for sure. We've done a lot, but even towards each other, we've just, we've created just so many wounds for humanity that this is the time of creativity, of imagination for us to undo those. And the huge role that education can play is that it actually can bring in the whole feeling of, one of the things that I love that when I see you even speak and when I see you dress is that you're somebody who loves to question the status quo. And, for forever so long in education, we've not encouraged kids to question the status quo. We've encouraged them to be compliant. We've encouraged them to think a certain way. We've reinforced beliefs that, playing safe is better than sort of expanding potential. So I actually think Imagination University and people like us together, we can rewrite definitions of success, rewrite definitions of learning and education, and bring in fairness and equality.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I like being a provocateur. I like sort of just getting in and putting a stick into things and seeing what happens, and especially with things which I don't believe are really what makes us who we are. So if I paint my nails or dye my hair pink or wear a hooded sweatshirt, that doesn't change my level of intelligence. What it changes is actually, and it showcases that we often try and box people, and very quickly we lose so much opportunity to connect with people because we think they are a certain way. Nick, there's a genuine pointy tip to this work. Like, we want to see if we can knock educational inequity out of the park. Like, we really want to have a go at it. And we think that part of the pressure point are not just the kid, but the levers of the teacher, the way we think about corporate businesses, the way we think about economic modeling. It's the big play. We're really trying to say, can we operate in a big global stratosphere and be a space where people can come together and not us have the answers, but hopefully facilitate and curate an experience with it. Now, firsthand how hard it is to change things and to get up every single day. What words of advice would you have for the people that want to set out their change projects, or for the young people that are about to start? Because it doesn't come easy. It hurts. It's a struggle. You're isolated. You break and you have to remake yourself. And so that's, I think, the pointy tip to the other end of what Lena's talking about. There's the philosophical viewpoint and the moral objective, and then there's the grit and determination of how hard it is to create change.
Yeah, I don't know if I've got the silver bullet, but I think, even this week with Mental Health Week is a reminder that we're not alone on these journeys, and whether that be a personal challenge or whether it be a massive project challenge like what you guys are embarking on, or what we're all embarking on, is that, something that we talk about at Orange Sky all the time is the power of conversation and reaching out to other people. And something that I love about learning is that that is a gift, but we also need to remind ourselves that that gift should be exchanged. So what I really love about learning in all parts of life, and particularly with the work that you're doing, is that we're all equal here, and that we're only as strong as what we collectively share. So we all have bad days. We all have these massive mountains to climb, and collectively, hopefully, we can be better at getting through that with the power of all of us.
Awesome. Well, Nick, AR, Lena, Kabir, thank you for taking the time to kick off the show today as we catch up with a bunch of different people. Really fascinated by the work we can do and explore together in India. AR and Lena, I think it could be really, really interesting. And Nick, I think one of the things we struggle with from a design perspective sometimes is going sideways with really cool projects that are happening and working out how either we can help amplify the work that you're doing, or or connect you into a village of people that can really help scale that. So maybe Orange Sky is then in India or in other places. I think that's part of what we're trying to be able to bring to life as well. And Cubs, let's go keep making some trouble. There's plenty more to come on the other side. Thanks, guys, for checking in. And we're going to throw to it. So for those of you watching at the moment, you might be wondering who we are and what gives us the right to open a university. So we have done some work for 16 years. This video talks a little bit about what we've done. We showed it when we ran a festival of mentoring in 2019. So it doesn't take us right up to now, but it gives you a sense as to some of the history of AIM and the work that's happened before opening IMAGI-NATION University. Opportunities are there, and we're just there to help you.
$50 and you have to wear your budgie smugglers.
National Hoodie Day is a chance to look good and do good.
That next year we're going to run a global campaign to give away 20 golden tickets to 20 university students from 20 different countries to win a one-off scholarship for 3 years to see if they can take our model and rip a generation of powerless people out of inequality. Not only are we going to nail this back home, but we're going to turn our eyes to every kid that's been left behind and see if we can build a better, fairer world for us all. That starts tonight. Get ready for the next 10 years. You ain't seen nothing yet.
You. Sitting in the back row with the fire inside, we see you. You who has fought for everything, we see you. You who knows what it is to rebel, we see you. There is a generation of kids, just like you, waiting for you to see them. So if not you, then who? If not now, then when?
Craig, how are you? Thank you for joining us on IMAGI-NATION TV. Have you got me there, Craig?
Oh, I check.
How are you?
Oh, yes, I got you. Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hey, tell me what is interesting you about Imagination University? What are you thinking?
I didn't quite get you. Can you repeat? Can you repeat your question?
We might try and see, Craig, if you want to turn your camera off, we'll see if the internet holds up and some audio, and I'll just go to Kanal with a question. Kanal, nice to see you again. How are you?
Hey, I think we've been talking every week.
Yeah, it's just become it's mentoring in practice, my friend. Just catching up with lots of different people over time. And what when you think about knowledge and how we learn, how does that start? What's the first thing that happens when we're trying to learn something, you think?
That's such an interesting concept, because there's this beautiful ideology of everyone being a different kind of learner. And when we really generalize knowledge as a concept, and the same way when information and knowledge are two very different things, that point when knowledge comes in, it really has a different meaning for everyone. So that's really that filter of consciousness that really filters out knowledge and makes it a lot more personal. So I think the first part of accepting knowledge is the fact of understanding it and accepting that you're. So there's this beautiful quote that most men would rather die than think. So it's really about taking that separate ideology of thinking and being ready to accept it. And I think that's the first stage of having any knowledge.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's a scary thing to think. It's a scary thing to question. There's a F. Scott Fitzgerald quote which I really like, which is the sign of intelligence is to hold two conflicting thoughts at the same time and still function. And I think that that's really hard. We can have, I can know what I believe in, and really think that can be the right thing to do, whatever right may be. And then I can also know that there could be a very good chance that tomorrow I could wake up and learn a whole new way, and someone else could change something and you go, oh, okay. So trying to work with the flow of chaos that is life. I think that the Earth is currently moving at 1,000 miles an hour right now, and the speed of light is 299,000 kilometers a second, I think. And we're talking over video through bouncing up into the sky. There's a lot to try and get your head around in a life. How do you try and balance all of the knowledge out there, and maybe the sense that you'll never be able to learn everything, and then act, and still use that thinking and then want to act? How have you been able to balance that?
So I'm going to reply back with another quote. So there's this I can't remember who said it, but I am not old enough to not know everything. So specifically, when younger, we have this fake philosophy, which is a part of the broken education system right now, that knowing everything in a subject and specializing is possible. But in a rapidly changing environment, the key to learning anything is accepting that it's necessary to not know everything to learn anything. Because if you think you know everything, you're creating the biggest illusion with it. So I think ideally in any concept, any place, so specifically as a serial entrepreneur, and same for you, Jack, looking onto starting different ventures in completely different places. And now more recently, when we invested in a health company, it was a total different shift. And really being open to accepting that you can be wrong and taking out the fear of starting from zero. Because one of the biggest reasons why people do not quit jobs which they don't like, which is not fulfilling, is the reason that they're scared to start from nowhere. And as an entrepreneur, you have to start from nowhere to get anywhere.
Well, and also the most beautiful thing, the most beautiful, amazing thing is clearness. Is being able to see something with a beginner's mindset, to be a baby and see light for the first time, to see color for the first time. Like, it's so incredible, the gift of learning. I think what you're sort of touching on is one of these challenges is, and we talk about it a fair bit as well, and we'll sort of work on teaching a module around this with the university, is how you pull shame away, this idea of shame and failure. How can we strip ourselves of these kind of heavy weights that lock us down and be able to just kind of have the freedom to explore? Craig, I'm not sure if you can still hear us, but if you can, I'd love to just hear from you about what imagination means to you and what you're thinking about getting engaged with the university.
Yeah, I can hear you. So, as for me, imagination, it's just exploring, starting from nowhere, going to somewhere, being able to implement something without anything. So for me, starting from here, I wanted to give everyone an opportunity to get education in a much better way and a fun way also. That to create something out from starting from zero to become a hero. We have to imagine it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea, and the one of the projects I'm hoping that we can push some people on is supporting, you know, internet connectivity in lots of different places as well as a side, so we can make sure that that's readily accessible at scale everywhere. And this idea of nowhere to somewhere, to create something out of nothing. Kunal, after you make something from nothing, which you've done and I've done, I hate money, like in the nicest possible way. Like I'm, you know, it's a privileged thing to be able to say, I'm lucky enough to be able to have a reasonable, okay salary to be able to, you know, live in a place and have food. But I really hate money when it comes to ideas, because I feel like the moment that you're like, oh, well, let's employ the person to do that, you lose everything that Craig's talking about, which is the ability to invent something out of nothing. When you start getting into process and you start thinking about what's been established, you're using tools which are already out there and you're not really inventing. So I love the challenge of, we have no tools, we have no resources, now work it out. How do you approach starting something anew, Kunal?
I think I love the Airbnb philosophy here. So like being very thoughtful, and even after you raise $800 million, thinking as if you have nothing, being as frugal as you were when you had $8 in your pocket, when you have $800 in your bank. So ideally, the philosophy of, so anytime when I'm starting something new, it's really about understanding that and accepting that I do not know it. And so one of the things that threatens most entrepreneurs, and in fact causes their demise, is the fact that they do not like to hire people better than them because it threatens them. And I think that is one of the that is a genocide of the company's philosophies and the company's growth. As strong a word as that is, it's really important to hire people better than you. And
well, there's a slight assumption in there, which is that you know what you are good at, and that takes time. That not cultivating that self-knowledge to work out what you offer, then allows one to know what they're looking for from a team, and that's quite difficult to learn how to say, I am this, I am not this. Recently, we've just made some changes in our organization to try and get rid of this idea of a hierarchical system where you've got a CEO at the top. Because I was a CEO I became a CEO at 22. I was a CEO for 10 years. And
I've faced it so many times.
Yeah.
Like it really sucks. I had this one experience. I've hated school for a long while, and I've had this one experience of someone in the company coming up to my office with his hands at the back as if he'd been sent to the principal's office. And that day onwards, it was an epiphany. It was a moment of change, because I realized I cannot be the CEO who the employee needs to go up to. You need to go to the CEO's office. And that's when we created this change. So instead of the employee coming up to the CEO's office, it was the CEO going to the employee's table.
Well, if you extend that even further, maybe we don't need CEOs. So we just got rid of the CEO title. We retired it. And so I'm now the head of design, and we have a team, we have a general manager, and we have a team of people who are trying to train this idea of self-management and we've got mentors from the outside, and really trying to build a circular model of operating with a little bit of hierarchical structure. But what that required, like I'm 16 years in, what that required was me saying, hey, I can lead and I can do systems and I can do a budget, I can do all that sort of stuff. I'm really good at creating something out of nothing. That's my really special thing. So actually, I want to do that, and then we can hire a team around it. So sometimes for entrepreneurs, I think it's good to be direct and good to challenge young people and older people and people starting something from nothing, to say, hire people who are smarter than you. But we then also need to know what the heck smarter is. So that we'll have some variables on that definition. But I think having that self-knowledge of who you are, what your limitations are, and then how far you want to go in being engaged with things allows you to then build a really cool team around that. Craig, have you thought about the project that anything that you'd really like to get out of Imagination University if we're 12 months down the line from it being involved?
So the project that I want to do is, that I'm doing right now. I decided to form a club that to help us as young people to embark on projects that to help us learn. One, two, they will create us more time focused on education rather than focusing on other stuff. 3, it will also boost our practical skills that will help us in the early future and also in education.
Very cool. Well, I caught a bunch of the big concepts that you're putting together there, and one of the things I'm excited about is us helping facilitate a complex network where you may be in a tutorial group with Kunal and with an executive leader from Los Angeles and a teacher from Australia, and we can really build that knowledge. And to your point, Kunal, about building teams of people around us who have lots of different knowledge, not necessarily smarter, but are different. I think that makes us stronger, and it allows us to curate experiences. So thank you both for dropping in, and really excited to see what we might be able to do together with this project.
Lovely. Thanks a lot. It's always fun catching up. I'm excited to see what's next week.
Yeah, we'll just settle with the university. That's a big enough frame. We'll just knock this one out of the park for a while. Thanks, Craig. Right. Thanks, Kunal. We're going to go throw to a quick short film that we made with thanks, man. With a French filmmaker named Laurent Witz when we looked to take aim globally about 4 years ago. And it's called COGS. It's about how we get off the structured paths that we might be on and how we really try and change the way the world works from the inside out. So we'll check that out, and then we'll catch up with a couple of cool cats on the other side.
Taking clock to cure pain. Every second means a mile. Every minute means a day. I hope you're walking in the sun. Hope you're going to be someone. that one day I will find you on my way. Maybe one day, maybe today.
So, Reddy, thank you for joining us on Imagination TV for the University Special as we explore what we might be able to do together. I'd love to love to just start with a really simple question. What's imagination?
Thanks for having me, Jack. It's awesome to be here. What's imagination? It is the fundamental and beginning of the process of being able to create something. It's unlimited. There are very few, if any, boundaries to it. And it is, it's really our tool for creation in this world.
Yeah, I'm just writing that down straight into the textbook for Imagination University. We had a conversation on Friday for the show, and an Australian writer, film, TV writer, he spoke about his dad was a politician in Australia, and his dad said to him that his lens on any policy that he would fight for was, have we used imagination with this? Have we actually tried to think about what we could do with our imagination to make this idea or this policy sing? And on his deathbed, his dad said to him, I think it might be the most important thing we've got. And so since then, he's been trying to understand what imagination is, how do we teach it, how do we use it, how do we train it? And I think it's a superpower. I think I think it might be the beginning of all human thought. I definitely think it's a common thread line for rewiring our brains and working with kids and getting ourselves out of what we know to what we might be able to be, and behavioral change. And so I'm, part of what we're saying with the university is, look, this is a 50 to 100 year game, hopefully, that we can work with a bunch of complex thinkers and test case studies, and we'll try and capture all the information into a library for people over time, because it's there's a lot in it, I think. We might jump around to a couple of the people who've joined us. Pauline, have we got you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Hey, nice to see you again. How are you?
I'm good. What about you? Nice to see you again too.
Yeah, good. We're having fun. I feel like I'm in the luckiest spot at the moment. I just get to hang out with all these interesting people from around the world. Hey, tell me, when we want to try and build a bridge to someone who's different, when we want to have a conversation with someone who's different to us, which may be every human being, but perhaps race, nations, wealth, how the heck do we build those bridges?
For once, Jack, I think it's quite an easy question. You actually ask questions, and this is the first point to any level of empathy that you can gain with someone. You shut up and you ask your question and you listen back to the answer. And I've always believed in the power of well-formulated questions. Imaginative, creative questions can actually create absolutely amazing stories and conversations out of nowhere, beyond what you do and what are your hobbies, like, going into the past, the values, the mindset, the ideas of someone else through questions. I believe is a very powerful tool to practice.
May, dude, if we, I think you're a pretty smart person. On paper, you've done stuff, and we can sort of check off the tick boxes. What happens if you have to unlearn what you know? We can do that when we're younger a little bit easier with Flex. How do you go about challenging yourself to maybe be wrong in an idea, or when you see something that you do and it doesn't work, how the heck do you take that conversation internally to then unlearn, relearn, and build yourself into a different person tomorrow?
I think I've gotten better with it over time. Recently, I think I find it a lot easier to challenge myself on the status quo. I also challenge myself on things that I already know about myself. I think a large part of it was also the contribution of Pauline in my life. I would definitely believe that she made me a better person by trying to sometimes just tell me, hey, you know what, you have a big head sometimes, and sometimes you just need to get out of it and and I think it's very important that we find people in our lives, our friends, our family, who can challenge us and also show us the right path. I think the importance of that is absolutely important. I can't even stress on how important that is. Along with that, I think the co-CEO model that you guys are planning at Imagination University, I think that's something very interesting, right? Having younger people who are as smart, maybe even smarter, just with less access, lesser access, maybe lesser privilege, but who have this fire in their belly to change the way that tomorrow is going to look like. Seeing these people, I think, is going to act as a huge starter of new kinds of conversation, as well as new ways of unlearning and relearning. And I really believe that because I've mentored a lot of people and I've learned a lot from these guys. Just being challenged in the boardroom, just being challenged at the workspace by people who are younger and motivated, have a lot of young energy, that kind of makes you think, hey, you know what, maybe we should let them take the lead forward on this project. So I think both of these ways, having friends and family, and then on the other side, young mentees, I think that works really well.
Yeah, how we build those, which is sort of part of the design of some of the work we've kind of stumbled across, luckily, is this bridge of mentoring is such a beautiful bridge to exchange knowledge. And I'm lucky enough to be a part of the Aboriginal story in Australia, which is 60,000 years long. And that's an oral history, which is really lots of knowledge passed on again and again and again. My mum paints, and so that's been mum's way of capturing a lot of stories for us to be able to follow, take on that knowledge. And I feel like it should just be a normal thing that we're all of kids, so every kid in the world is next. So let's take our knowledge, pass it on, and then we should hopefully have incremental progress. And then if we can include the environment, hopefully we'll get more things right than not. Hey, Bem, you've done some organising of change on the ground in Australia, in Melbourne, after we had some challenges with some quite divisive commentary from some of our political leaders about calling young African people African gangs. And we sort of got in the game, and that's where we met you to start doing some work to build some bridges. And now you're back in Nigeria doing similar work. What have you learnt about organising change? And let's just start with that. What have you learned about organising change?
Hi, Jack. Nice to be back on the show again. I think keeping it simple, keeping it relatable, and keeping it practical is what I found has been the easiest way of organizing people around an idea.
And how do you you politely looked me up and down in a nice way to just sort of check if I was for real, and I hope that I've followed through on that after we had our when we caught up in Melbourne to talk about this work. And how do you trust yourself? How do you trust an idea? And how do you keep getting up every day? Because it's not sexy doing this work. You're every single day trying to say to people, I want you to change your behavior. And that is uncomfortable. So every single day you're making everyone around you a little bit uncomfortable. And that can be tiring. And then you go to bed at night like, oh my gosh, how are you finding the way to channel that fire and that passion that I know is deep inside of you into structural change, as opposed to maybe being on the outside screaming in frustration? How have you managed to move yourself into a way that you can try and do something with what's there?
Well, I would say I had a really great mentor from the onset, my dad. He fought every single day from as long as I had memory, up until leaving him for 11 years and coming back and watching him still do what he was doing for things that he believed in. And what gives me the fire is knowing that what we do makes a difference. How we lead by example makes a difference. And I've seen so many examples of that in my family, in the different networks I've been involved with and the people I've worked with. So that's enough for me to keep going and keep turning up, to make sure that people also turn up for things they believe in.
And it becomes a little bit of a currency, doesn't it? If you're turning up again and again, that starts to be this different currency, which we don't necessarily have a dollar value around, but something happens and maybe we walk across to the other tracks. Hey, Sareti, what do you think change is possible?
I think change is the only thing that's consistent. Change is always happening. I was thinking a while back, I think about a year back, around the term that we use, agents of change or change makers. I think when you strive to make a difference in this world, you're really helping facilitate the natural process of existence. And I think a lot of it is trying to break down the resistances that people or communities or structures have to the fact that for things to survive and for things to actually serve people, they need to be changing. And I think the only reason people resist change is if they think they are benefiting from something staying the same. But if something is harming one person or even two people, or just a few people, it cannot fully be serving the person who even believes it's serving themselves. So I don't just think it's possible. I think it's always happening. It's the only thing that's always happening.
Yeah, I often am on the other side of people looking quite exhausted and going, "Oh, things are changing again, Jack." Well, I'm trying my best to keep up with nature, and the analogy I've been reflecting on a little bit lately is waves. Like I'm lucky enough to live near the ocean, and the power of the ocean, the power of waves, and your job is to just sit, wait for the wave and move with it and catch it. And there's nothing I'm doing to stop, to change the force of that wave in that moment. There's some things that I'm doing as a member of the human race collectively that are shifting the ways that oceans are moving. But I think working out how if we know there's some inevitable change coming, for example, we know there's rising seas, let's design with it. Let's know it's coming, let's accept it, and let's try and design the challenges. Let's try and design the solutions as we move around it. Pauline and May, just an open question. What role do you think kindness and exchange of knowledge plays in our economies, and have we found a model yet to value that?
I'll take that first, Megdut, if that's fine.
Go ahead.
Before the call started, Jack, I heard you say that you really don't like money as a concept of working as a society, and I could not relate to it more. I'm allergic to it, and I think we have failed as a society to value success and literally values and creation of value. We have failed to measure it with something else than money. So there are some nights or even some days that I dream of an economy that would not be based on the money or the currency that we know, but instead of, kindness points or whatever that is, that you can find a more meaningful purpose beyond the €1 that I'm going to give you in exchange of a service. I think I said that in the last call that we had together. One of the realizations that I had quite recently in the past few months is that the past is past, the future is uncertain, and therefore everything that we have absolute control over is our present and the way we behave with each other. And we can absolutely, it's a belief of mine that we can go through change, either being jerks and stressed out or being kind and absolutely chill. And I think the second option makes more sense.
I've been, one of the fields of inquiry we're looking at in the university is this concept called hoodie economics, where we're interested in what's happening around this hooded sweatshirt as one example, where a kid will suddenly pull themselves out of educational inequity and finish year 12 after 6 years of creating change themselves, and then they might have the hoodie as the exchange at the end, or a volunteer mentor donates 200 hours worth of time to go out and tutor a student, and which could be worth $20,000, but they do it, and a hooded sweatshirt might sit there, or someone might donate $1 million. So I'm sort of interested in that, and we've got a professor named Asterix who's going to be teaching the hoodie economics course, who might just drop in quickly. Hello.
Hello.
Lovely to see you all.
Asterix.
I'm going to be teaching hoodie economics, and I'm currently working on my thesis. It's quite challenging trying to work through those ideas that you were talking about, Pauline. Challenging, but I'm up for it. I better get back to working. Bye.
Brilliant.
There's a bunch of floating around. They're going to be our professors, is these puppets who are wonderful creatures and protectors of imagination, I think. So working with these complex storytellers. But I think the economic modeling is something that it's worth. You can't look in isolation at the problem of education and equity without thinking about the economic levers and the challenges around it. You four, I could talk to you forever. We've got other people that are about to jump in, so I'm going to have to let you go. Thank you, Sareti, Bam, Maydut, and Pauline for joining us. It's been great having a chat, and can't wait to see what we do together over the next 12 months with this university project and beyond.
Thanks, Jack.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Jack. See you soon.
Thank you, Jack. Talk to you soon.
Nice to see you.
We're going to go catch up with another professor of the university, Professor Lionel Corn, who I think is outside, and he's got an update on Lionel's climate class.
During this year's fire season, around 110,000 square kilometres of bush, forest and parks across Australia burned. That's the size of Switzerland, Jamaica, Taiwan, Israel, Singapore and Norfolk Island put together. Which sounds like a fun country. Scientists recently said climate change increased the risk of these fires by at least 30%. I'd planned to ask some of the local animals what they think of climate change, but unfortunately 3 billion of them died in the fires, so there's no one left to ask.
Saru, I'm not sure if we've got you there. If we do, hello, how are you?
Hi. Hi, Jake.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Good to have you here.
You're welcome.
What have you learned about organising change so far? What would be one of the lessons that you'd like to share as people are coming in to try and work on their projects for change?
Okay, the most important thing that I learned, especially this year, is you cannot change people. You cannot will to change people and then do it. But the first thing you should do is give them a reason to change. That's the only thing that you can, that's the only way you can change a person. Give them a reason why they should change, and then they'll decide on their own if they want to change. And I'm sure if the reason is valid enough and exciting and, you know, sounds good to them, they will change. But you cannot just wake up and go to someone and be like, you need to change your behavior. I don't like what you've been doing. They won't change. Well, you need to tell them the consequences. Yeah.
We're sort of starting to enter into this idea of, I was, when I was in 2004, when we were sort of sketching AIM a little bit, I was fascinated by what a complex network of conversations looks like. What a complex space where you can explore the ideas for the ideas' worth, and we can try and understand what they mean. And over time, I studied communications, and I've watched the communications landscape just completely and utterly discombobulate. We've lost what used to be the fourth estate, that used to sort of try and protect us as citizens, at least in part, from all of the challenges that can come with power, and with those moments where you maybe get corrupted along the way with ideas. And I'm really interested in what you're talking to there, Saru, with the university, is trying to really build a space where we can go, okay, you want me to change, why? And have more than 8 seconds to talk about it, because we can't do that in 8 seconds. We can't do that in 2 minutes. We can't do that in 6 minutes. If we're talking about complex psychological work or really deep knowledge, that's going to take some time. Mathoni, great. Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that accurately. If I haven't, correct me on the job, and I like learning all the time. But thanks for joining us. I'd love to talk about this idea of building bridges and how we create space for complex conversation between each other to talk about change and to meet each other halfway.
Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, you pronounce it perfectly. I mean, that's amazing. I live in France and everyone says Mutoni. I think that's a hard question. I think the thing that I've learned from, especially working with communities, is like Saru, I think I pronounced it right, said, people know what change looks like. People know what they might want. I think it's providing a space for people to explore what they hope for the future. And I think it's in those conversations where the complexity, right? The complexity comes out. From the work that I've done, I recognize that oftentimes the reason why we're resistant to change is because we have no alternative way of thinking, or we feel we can't have an alternative, even if we want it. And I think that's always important, to provide a space where people start to design and think for themselves what possible futures look like for them and for others. So I think that's where to start.
What sort of change would you like to see, Saru?
I'm one person who, even a slight change to me, the moment someone just moves from one stage to another, no matter how small or silly it can be, to me it's change, and it's a step ahead. So any sort of change, I would like to see a revolution in someone's life, whether it's a kid, whether it's an adult, or I don't know, just anyone, whatever type of change it is.
When you talk about that change or those little moments, what are you, from where to where, like where are you hoping that they will change towards? Even if it is a small moment, what are you hoping to help people? What change are you hoping to try and create for people to then move towards?
To me, I think the thoughts, the first thing that you have to change is the way you think. The moment you change your thoughts and then you start to imagine, you can make things happen. So for me, that's very important. And that's one thing I always try to do, even when I'm doing things here in Zimbabwe. It's always me changing how people think first, and then we can move on to the next stage. Like we transition from high school to university. I have a very good example. I was talking to one student on Saturday, and then he asked me like, so do you give us scholarships? And I was like, no, we don't give you scholarships, but we give you a reason. We give you that opportunity for you to think, why is it important for me to transition from high school to university? And that is going to push you to look for financial support or for a scholarship on your own. We give you that opportunity, or that platform for you to do that. So just change your thoughts. That's very important.
Yeah, such a huge sentence, just change your thoughts. Like, it's so hard to do that, isn't it, Muthoni, to be able to try and change a thought, especially when we get grown up, whatever that means. Something happens where we kind of, and I was sort of thinking as you were talking, Saru, about, I like making pizza. I'm like pretty good at making pizza. And so you'll give the pizza to people when you've made the pizza, and everyone will eat the pizza. Now, sometimes we forget to show the ingredients, and that's just the ingredients that are in our house. Now, we grow some stuff in the backyard, but we don't grow everything. So if you can go through the whole experience of what's in the ingredients, then it might be easier for people to understand the process of creating something. And I think our job as teachers, mentors, guides, citizens for each other is to try and make the big small. So when we say change, okay, what does that mean? When we say culture, what does that mean? When we say success, what does that mean? When we say smart, what does that mean? And if we can unpack the ingredients for each other, I think then we start to find commonalities, and a lot more commonalities in that experience. Muthoni, there's a bunch of thoughts. Over to you.
I mean, I think that's a great metaphor. I think the way I see it is when you have a recipe, for example, if you're making a pizza, you have certain ingredients. Not everyone likes those ingredients or has them. So I think it's creating a space where, does the recipe enable us to expand or divert and use what we have? So it's about using resources that we have. So normally we will stick to the recipe, right? Like it says we need this 5 ingredients, and I say I need this 5 ingredients. But I think creating a space for people to think beyond the 5 ingredients and say, no, I don't want pepperoni on my pizza. I want, I don't know, chicken or whatever it is. And for them to have confidence to divert from that and still have the pizza at the end. So basically what I'm saying is opening up space for people to think that there are many ways many alternatives which we can take on to get to the goal that we want, and that we can rely on the knowledges that we have, right? So I think one of the conversations that I've had when I joined this was, it's about learning, but learning, everyone brings something to the table. Everyone has some kind of resources in their garden. So how do we bring those resources? Mine might be different from yours, but at the same time, they enable us to contribute to maybe a more delicious pizza, so to speak.
Yeah, and when I think part of what we have to train, and I really think that we have to try and train it, is I don't think we will ever find a common language. I think that's dangerous. I think we should have differences in understanding. I think what we need to protect and try and design is a space called, the gray space between it is all black or it is all white. If we can have space to explore, then we get to remove some of that energy that we feel like under pressure we have to follow the rules and put those 5 ingredients in, and we have to get an outcome, or we're going to be bad, or we're going to be wrong, or we're going to be right. And we can see, because Saru, you wanting change, I want change, and I also know that, like, I hope that I can be open enough that if someone comes to me and says, Jack, here are 5,000 things that aren't working in the world that you're thinking about, or here is the next big challenge, or here's something you need to jump to, or you need to change in these 500 ways, that I can go, okay, and try and hear that. And so we've got to keep cultivating a space for deep listening, I think will be a very great asset, especially with the complexity of where the communication landscape has got to. Again, I could talk to you both forever, and I just probably spoke a little bit too much, but Saru and Muthoni, thank you for joining us to talk about this. We're really excited about this project, and specifically, thinking about building bridges in that grey space and a social network for good. I think it could be a great gift for us to all design and work on together. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Jack.
Oh, good. We're going to jump to a quick video, which is a pre-record from Ndovi, who's talking about what they want to do with the university.
I attend school at Marude Secondary School. I'm currently doing grade 11. I stay at Mobile. I've started a book club. So in this book club, I'm promoting reading culture, so that young people who are around here at Mobile will be able to grow up having the skills, reading skills, and being able to stand up and talk for themselves. Also helping them to have more self-esteem so that they can trust themselves and be able to stand up and say their peace of mind. Like, I've noticed that most of us young people, we are scared of standing up and tell the peace of our mind. So I'm just trying to help young women and other children around here to be able to stand up for themselves and talk and say their peace of mind. There are a few people who have noticed me, like a few mentors from a university of Venda. They're the ones that have noticed me, so I'm working with some of them. They're helping me in this project that I'm doing. I keep the social distancing between the children that come in here, check their temperature, and make sure that I sanitize their hands. I've received like a good turn up from people around here. Like, I'm impressed. I'm helping grade 1, from grade 1 up until grade 7. I help them with their school subject like maths, life skill, natural science, and technology. Most of the subjects that they do at school. So far, I'm having a challenge of having proper material to use to teach these children. Like, I use charts, but I was hoping that soon I'll get like a board so that I can be able to use a board instead of using charts, because they usually fall while I'm teaching them. So far, I've only thought about speeches, but I was thinking maybe I can use this gender-based violence and educate these children by maybe asking them to do a debate about gender-based violence. They can debate if whether they think it's okay for men to have more power than women, just to help to give them some knowledge about gender-based violence. Most of the support that I get from my parents or family members, my friends, some of my friends from school. So yeah, those are the only people that are giving me support so far.
Right.
I would like to tell that it is good to stand up for ourselves and be able to do something for our community, because like most of our community do need help. I believe there's no community that don't need help. So we should stand up because we're the future generations. So we should be the ones standing up and doing something for our communities.
Very cool. What a great mixture of people we've been able to hang out with so far today. We've got a couple more segments with people we're going to catch up with, and then we're going to wrap up the show. So we thought we'd just throw to a very quick music track just to lift everybody's spirits up. And this one is an anthem that we recorded with some AIM students a couple of years ago. And every year we work with some students around the world and we try and create an anthem. And this one was to a Sam Cooke tune called A Change Is Going to Come. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side.
It's been too hard to live in, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know the change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down my knees.
There's been times that I wouldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
Erica, thank you for joining us on IMAGI-NATION TV. It's great to see you. I was just wondering, I've been reflecting a lot on this idea of hope, and one of our professors is Professor Hope, who's a magical puppet who's going to be teaching about imagination and looking at that idea. And Hope's been telling me a lot how hope doesn't come easy. Hope's they've had a pretty tough backstory, and just wondering, how do we keep hope alive? How do we build that up in ourselves and collectively?
So first of all, I'm so glad to be back and to see all of you again. And how do we build up hope? Of course, my thing is always going back to our ancestors and knowing the struggles that they have gone through. That usually gives me hope that they struggled so that I could be here, or they endured a lot of different things so that I could be here with you in France, talking to you, Jack, in Australia, right? And so that actually gives me hope, is knowing that there were people that went before me to actually make a way. So that's what gives me hope.
Gilbert, thank you for joining us. What about you? What gives you hope, and is it a muscle we can train? How do we look after this word?
Hi, Jack. Hello?
I've got you, yeah. Just checking, like what with hope, what do you think? How do we keep it going? How do we share it? How do we look after this idea, and that might be so closely linked to our soul and to action and progress?
Well, in my own idea, how we can build hope is in things that we do and things that we hope that will happen, just to keep our hope like going on and keeping it our dreams alive. Then your hopes will always be alive. So yeah, that's how we can build hope and keep imagining every day a better world that you want everyone to live. And yeah, that's what I can say about hope. Thank you.
Caroline, have we got you there? How are you?
I'm doing great, and how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, I'm interested in, if you were making a cake called Hope, what would be the ingredients in it? What do you think we need to put into this recipe?
Okay. Firstly, thank you guys for having me. It's been a minute since I've last seen you guys. But if I were to bake a cake called the Hope, firstly, I'd say put in imagination, just go wild with it, and then put in a lot of love, like big scoops of love on it. And then in addition to that, add youth, like add a bit of freshness to it. So more young people add to hope. And in that, add in support, and just a pinch of money, that would do. But love and support and a lot of fresh ideas from the youth, I strongly believe that would make a great tasting cake.
Yeah, it's in the pinch of money is interesting, isn't it? Like, because sometimes we trap ourselves in this crazy game and forget that all of those things that you described, no one owns love, no one owns imagination, no one owns ability to go and gather with people and to work on ideas. And Erica, when you think about how a fairer world works, how do we talk to each other? How do we work out how to design different models that still have a pinch of that money so we can do what we need? But there's a lot that's outside of the dollar that seems to give us so much more that we may not be valuing in our current models around economies.
Yeah, so I guess one part would be to understand that peace is just as profitable as anything else, and it is a very good currency as well. And a lot of times we can find peace by actually listening to one another, trying to really understand where the other person is coming from, and also trying to see, okay, well, am I really understanding where this person is coming from? And am I really hearing you know, what this person is trying to convey. And so a lot of that actually can also come from conversation. Right? So that could be a currency.
Can you define for me a currency? What's a currency?
Oh, well, I have the same feeling about money, but for me, a currency is something that we exchange with one another. So it doesn't actually have to be what we say, a dollar bill or a euro or something like that. Currency can be something that is just exchanged with one another. Like our conversation is currency right now.
Yeah,
I mean, actually, to me, right?
That's kind of a really interesting one, which and Caroline, when we think about energy, the energy that you can give to somebody, that doesn't sit in your wallet. How much of a difference can, you know, a piece is a very good currency, is such a powerful frame. And I think the energy that you feel when you feel peaceful, when you feel calm, when you feel like you're not under threat, you can do, and that can often, you can be in one spot with the same world and hear two different stories, have two different sources of energy, and act very differently. How do we take care of the energy we give to each other, Caroline? Do you think about that consciously when you connect with people?
Definitely, I do. I work with kids the whole week. So I've seen also it's so important the energy that you have within and what you give out to them. Because now, if you on your own do not have peace, it's very difficult for you to bring peace into a situation. So if you have peace within yourself, then you're able to bring this vibrant energy to people and they're able to reciprocate that. And when we're able to reciprocate the same kind of energy, we can be so effective, not just busy, but very effective and do something that is long lasting and having impact. So it's very key for us to protect our peace, our energy, so that we're able to give unto other people positivity into that.
When I was I've been in New York for the last sort of 4 years as we were taking aim globally, spending time there and then trying to, you know, work in some different places as well. And my partner was part of the Women's March movement that marched to Washington and was part of one of the early conversations where that was being organized. And Harry Belafonte, I was a big civil rights campaigner in America, said to them as they were trying to organize, look, when the music is strong, the movement's strong. And so a group of these women started the Freedom Resistance Revival Choir, and they went and started singing. They sung in Times Square and sung in a bunch of different places. And there's an old song that they sang, this old sort of change anthem. And it says, when there is light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. When there is harmony in the home, there is honor in the nation. And when there is honor in the nation, there is peace in the world. And I think we start to then see some of the ingredients of starting internally, what we role model in our homes, how we then think collectively about the world around us. Gilbert, what is interesting you about Imagination University? You might be on mute. Do you just want to have a go at that? There we go.
Well, Imagination University, I feel like it's a platform where we have to like share ideas on how we can make a world a better place for everyone to live, and a platform where everyone has to speak up their mind and whatever ideas they come up with, and then we can be able to make a better place for everyone to live, and we can have fun.
Yeah, have some. The fun's an important part in that energetic force, and often we think about imagination as like a childish thing, or these puppets actually are in this studio that I'm like the garage studio that I'm in, and I look at them as some of the most important creatures I've ever found, because they are magic. They allow me, and when I work with people, they allow the people that we're working with to unlock their imagination, and we dismiss at our own peril fun, we dismiss at our own peril play, we dismiss at our own peril imagination, because it allows us to unlock all of the different problems that we haven't yet encountered. And I think Einstein said, we will never solve tomorrow's problems with the same level of thinking that has created them. And remembering that puppets actually help us do new levels of thinking, that imaginative play, that fun is both enjoyable and critical. So Erica, Gilbert, Caroline, thank you for joining us and being a part of this. We can't wait to work with you all at Imagination University and see what we can bring to life next year. It's shaping up as a really fascinating experiment. So we're looking forward to doing that experiment and doing it well. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure. All right, we're going to go hang out with some kids who like talking about dreams. We've been making this short documentary, which we're going to continue to make over the years, and as social distancing and the challenges continue, we will explore what we can do digitally with connecting with people to talk about their dreams. But this is a short insight into a bunch of young people around the world about where dreams come from. We want to try and work out, where do dreams come from? So what do you think? Where do dreams come from?
From the dream time.
What are dreams?
Comes from your imagination.
What is that?
It's like a world of things that you think of.
What do you guys dream about?
Riding a unicorn and a turtle on its back.
A turtle on the back of the unicorn, or the turtle and the unicorn next to each other, with you sort of one leg on each?
Next to each other, I'd say.
Next to each other.
Who's powering the movement?
A cheetah.
What do you dream about?
Being rich.
Echiloto chichi.
I want to know, what's a dream?
A train is something that runs on the rails, and it takes people from Brooklyn to the Bronx, or from Queens to Brooklyn.
Who makes dreams?
Us.
Your brain? I reckon dreams are clouds what like are in your head, and like they picture all the stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do actually.
I think I go to sleep and my bed takes me to this stuff.
Your bed takes you?
Yeah, it kind of flies and takes me to these places when I sometimes have dreams.
What is your dream? Do you have a dream?
I dreamed about dinosaurs.
You can dream about like you're in a forest or a jungle.
I have dreams when I'm a green guy who can turn into animals.
Who invented dreams?
Martin Luther King.
When do you reckon the first ever dream was ever had?
1981.
So since 1981, when the first dream was had, have all people since that moment been able to dream?
No.
Why do you think no?
Sometimes people need to see stuff and hear stuff to dream. Well, some people don't because they can just stay up and don't go to sleep. Yeah, I reckon every kid has a dream. But sometimes you have a scary dream, like on Halloween you might have a scary dream.
And those bad dreams are so, like scary. Sometimes you dream about when you are in a scary hotel where there's vampires and zombies and skeletons that are still alive.
How much do you think dreams cost to make?
$10.
$10?
That's a well-priced dream.
What do you think, Bob?
The amount that you have to pay the hospital to get yourself out of your mom's belly.
What is psychology?
Psychology. We don't know the word that we call psychology. And that word is confusing us. We don't know. Psychology. Psychology.
Why do you think we use imaginations? Why as human beings, why do we have an imagination?
You can go off into far places. I don't know. It's hard, really hard.
Why is it hard?
It's just hard.
Well, that might be our time. Yusuf, welcome to Imagination TV. It's great to have you with us. Tell me, why do we have an imagination?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Yusuf. We have imagination to think of as in what we dream of and what you would like to happen in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
what I think we have imagination.
Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. I wonder if we've got Hitika there. Are you there?
Yes.
How are you? Thank you
Yeah,
for
okay.
joining us. I'd love to know what you think imagination is and why we have it.
Imagination is to bring like what the past happened. We can just imagine things and
Might have just lost you. Samira, simple question. Thanks for joining us. What's imagination?
Thank you. Imagination is this kind of capacity to think about something that could be different from what you are experiencing or living. And for that, you may need to first be allowed to have those beautiful dreams, but also probably have kind of evidence that sometimes dreams come true. So this is how you can fit probably your imagination.
And do you think it's something that we lose as we grow up?
We may lose it if we are not, how could I say, if we are not invited to keep our dreams alive. But this is not a fatality. I think we can be a grown person and even a very old person and still have beautiful dreams and believe in change. So this is why it's very important to never, to keep people always in that belief that things could be different, things could be better, and we should not give up our ideal and dreams, the dreams that we had when we were a child.
Yusuf, what is the best lesson you think you've learned so far in your life? What do you think is the number one best lesson you have learned?
Yeah, the best lesson I've learned is to be always kind to people, because you don't know what tomorrow may be. Maybe it's your turn to, if you're kind to people today, tomorrow it may be your turn needing the kindness. So you have to be always kind to people.
I love that. Itika, I think we might have
lesson.
Yeah, I think that is a beautiful, beautiful lesson. Hitika, we got you back, and I'd love to know the best lesson you have learned so far in your life.
best lesson which I have learned is to help others when they need help and to be kind also. My uncle taught me many mysteries also, which are actually good in my life. That's all.
Great. Samira, best lesson for you?
I would say, due to my experience, the belief that people, in the ability of people to bring change and to change their life, even when they are in very, very difficult situation and very, very difficult, facing very hard issues. There is still hope that something can change, and that would be one of the best lessons I've learned.
And when we face seemingly immovable objects, when there are I think Nelson Mandela spoke about, you climb the mountain and then there's always another mountain. When you're talking about an equal world or a fairer world or basic human rights for people and the struggle that sometimes that we have to work towards to get even the most basic of human rights for people. How do you keep your engine going, and how do you take that word hope that you mentioned and try and cultivate your ability to be a part of a space that works on creating change and moving forward?
There's several ways to do that. I think that it's important to always remember that sometimes it has been possible to make very significant changes. Nelson Mandela has been freed, apartheid has been abolished. Countries, approximately the whole world was colonized and then freed. So we need to look at those real huge and structural changes that happen. And we also need to have a very clear, it's important for people who, lead those actions in order to make change, have a clear strategy on how we want to obtain that change. And this is also something that can help people to believe in the possibility of this change, because you know that what you are doing is strategic, this is not, we're not doing things randomly and maybe that will work or not. We know that this has been proved that it can work.
Yeah, that to have confidence in an established level of thinking and knowledge that's come before when there's been precedents is something that I've been reflecting recently on, how there's been suddenly a debate around whether truth exists. And I think there is truth. I think there are some things that are true and are factual and we can have evidence around, and it's worth us pursuing things and ideas that have truth as a bedrock. And then we can challenge them over time scientifically, morally, ethically, and we can look at progress, but we also do have some really serious facts and truths, and we do have some established things that work, and finding that intersection between science and humanities is so critical for us to continue to make progress, I think, along the way. So thank you for joining us, Samira, and Yusuf for joining us, and Hitika for rounding out today's show. Hey, Yusuf, very quickly, what is the world going to look like in 10 years' time from now, you think?
The world, I think, it will be imagination, equality. People are all equal, and young people coming up with innovative ideas to bring positive change to the world. That's what I think in 10 years from now.
I think that sounds like a good vision. I think that's a good space for us to round out today's show. Thank you all for joining us on this panel, and for everybody that's looking at lining up for Imagination University. There's a lot that we can do together when we gather and build complex bridges between each other. There's lots of human potential which is untapped, and as Samira was saying, there's so much that we can follow and so many road maps that are out there. So we're going to do our best to try and bring together a bunch of tools around organizing change, around how we build bridges, around different models of economics, around mentoring, around imagination, and around how we flip the script, both our own internal script and external scripts, as we start to try and work out that if we're going to change the world, we're going to change the way it works as well. So plenty for us to do. Imagination University applications are open right now on aimmentoring.com. So just jump in and throw your application in. The university is free. It's open for 5-year-olds to 105-year-olds from anywhere around the world. And we're really trying to make higher order thinking accessible for anybody, anywhere, anytime. So this is a quick film we've made to launch the university. And thanks again for everyone for joining us for the Africa, Europe, India special as we've danced around the world and gathered with a bunch of interesting people. So off and away we go. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon Australian Eastern Daylight Time for 4 more shows that we're doing in the time zone around Asia to connect with people who are enrolling in Imagination University. So plenty to come. Take care, look after each other, be kind, keep using that imagination, and let's see if we can continue to build this world together and keep fighting for hope. Thanks, everybody.
We know what happened in 2020. So let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine
what a free and just world looks like. Let's imagine
a university free for all,
with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere.
Let's imagine
a social network for good.
A bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works.
Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class,
we see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students,
teachers, executives, citizens
coming together to work on a curriculum designed for a future that we hope to build. Now, imagine.
It's happening right here. And you're invited.
Welcome to Imagination University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory.
Applications are open now.
Thank you.